We back. Today, I think I'm gonna do a double upload. I think I'm gonna do 2 videos, so watch out for that. But today's video, I'm gonna talk about athleticism versus skill, which I think is a very underrated topic when it comes to basketball. I don't think one is more important than one other, but I do think both has its advantages and disadvantages in terms of importance. So I feel like if you're an athletic player, you have a lot of leeway. There's a couple things you could get away with. You don't have to be. You might not have to try as hard on certain things. You might not have to try as hard on certain things because you're athletically gifted, so you don't have to, for example, driving to the rim. If you're just faster than most of your defenders, it's easier for you to get to the rim versus someone who's not as fast but has to actually look for basket angles or the way to get to the rim more effectively versus just using street and speed and strength. Versus someone with skill, I feel like they have a lot of advantages because they're harder to guard. So if you're someone who could shoot at a high ability and drive and get to the rim, I feel like you're harder to guard because you're a 3-level player versus someone who's just a slasher, where their main attack of offense is just get into the rim. And I feel like that's a big debate in today's NBA. A couple years ago, in like 2019, with James Harden and Giannis had that little back and forth. When James Harden said, "Oh, I wish I was 7 foot. All he does is run and dunk." It made me raise. I always thought about it because I'm a player. I'm skillful, but I'm way more athletic than I am skillful. Especially when I was younger, I used to rely on my athleticism a lot more than I do now. I still rely on it, but I just now got back into shape. Like during the quarantine, like 2020, I would say I didn't get back into like peak shape until like the middle of this year. So since like 2020, 2021, I was still fast, I was still strong, but I was bigger, bro. I wasn't as lean. I was a little bit slower. So yeah, I had to use a lot more skill, like my shoot. But I would say because I don't jump when I shoot. Like I don't have a fundamental jump shot. I shoot kind of like Kawhi. Like you see how he doesn't fully jump, but like he raises on like his tippy toes type. It's like that. But I feel like both are very important. One is not more important than the other because even the most unathletic player is skillful in some extent. Kyrie's not unathletic, but he's not as athletic as LeBron. But stopping on the go, all that craftiness around the basket, that's still athleticism. It's just not jumping out the gym athleticism. Versus someone like LeBron, who people don't think has skill at all. It's a skill, or like Giannis, who people say don't have skill. There's a difference between a Giannis and a JaVale McGee. JaVale McGee, he's a role player. Even in his prime, he was a role player, and there's nothing wrong with that. Versus someone like Giannis, who's a 2-time MVP. It's a skill to know how to use your athleticism, all right? There's a skill to know when to attack the basket, how to use my opponent's weight against me if I'm posting up. Stuff like that. That's all skill in itself. It just might be harder to see versus someone who's 7 foot versus someone like Curry, where his main thing is shooting. But I do feel like if you have a good mixture of the both, that's really good for your offense. And on defense, I realized I became a better defender in these last couple months, looking at videos on how to become a better defender. But I've always been a good defender because of just pure effort. I feel like that's something that's not talked about enough. Effort, and then just me being fast, me being strong. I don't think I'm Mike Tyson, but I'm just saying. So I feel like those are things that once I learned how to like skillfully defend, cut people off, beat them to the spot, have your hands out when you're defending, I feel like I became a 10 times better defender. Like I feel like it's really hard to score on me now. Or you're gonna work for your bucket. Like good offense is always gonna be good defense, but you're gonna have to work for your bucket. Something I still want to learn though is how to guard bigger people, because I feel like that's a hard thing to do in basketball. Just guard someone who's just bigger than you. It's like it is what it is. But using your strengths, like I have really long arms, so it helps me with getting blocks and stuff. So stuff like that. I feel like when an athletic player, they go. That's why I say athleticism and skill goes hand in hand, because skill is learning how to use your athleticism in a skillful way versus just out there running and dunking, like just doing whatever just because you're athletic. Like, no, you still need to know how to use skill. I feel like a lot of skilled players that there's very skilled players that aren't athletic at all. Like, yeah, there's a few that you see at the park and be like, bro, you have no type of athleticism in your bones, but and they still be cooking. Or like when people get older, you could tell they're not as fast as they used to be. Like that stuff's all important. I feel like that's something very underrated in basketball. Like I feel like most people would rather be more skillful than athletic. Because if we think about it, if you ask people who's better, Carmelo or Giannis, there's people out there who dead say Carmelo's better. I promise you there are. There's people that would say prime Carmelo's better than prime or current Giannis. And it's just like, that's not true. That's not true by a long shot. Giannis is the better. I would say Giannis, yeah, it's by far. Like, it's not even a competition. But that's besides the point. But both skill and athleticism are, like, I would say a perfect blend of that is someone like DeMar DeRozan. Because in Toronto, so DeMar was catching a body every even I remember he has one dunk when he was on the Spurs on Boucher. It was like the first time the Raptors and Spurs played against each other, I think, since the trade with him and Kawhi, and he yammed it on him. Like he yammed it on him. So I feel like, or someone, it's funny that they're both, I'm playing with them right now, pause. Zach LaVine. Zach LaVine is one of the best 3-point shooters in the league, and he's one of the best dunkers in the league. He shouldn't have beat Aaron Gordon in that dunk contest, but I feel like Zach LaVine is probably one of the only few players that can win the 3-point contest and the dunk contest in the same year if he did both. So Zach LaVine, he's a perfect blend. Donovan, trying to think of someone who has a perfect blend of, I would say James Harden on a lesser extent. Like his especially these last couple years, his athletic burst to the rim. But I would say in his prime, people who slept on how athletic he actually was. Now it's gonna sound like Paul George, prime Paul George, even current Paul George. He's more skillful than athletic now, but like Paul George is a good blend of that. Jordan, of course. I would say even though like the first three-peat, it was more athletic versus the second one was more skill. Like prime Jordan, like younger Jordan was a slasher. He still could shoot the mid-range, but he was a slasher. He was potent. Like he was just getting to the rim. There was no stopping him. Versus once he got a little bit older, I didn't even know I was losing. What? Now let me lock in. But versus when he got older and after the first retirement, his body changed and stuff. So he had to work on that He had to work on the actual skills. So he developed the fadeaway. Kobe was a tenacious slasher when he was younger. Froby, bro, go watch the clips, bro. Froby was one of the most tenacious and underrated slashers of all time. But yeah. And then once he got older, like, he started developing that fadeaway, the mid-range, like, but he was still sneaky athletic in the 2010s, though. Like, he has a lot of plays where he's just dunking. I'm just like, oh, my fault, Kobe. Like, Kobe got to that rim. But yeah, I'd say those two are very hand in hand. I feel like it's something that I think I might make a part 2 to this video. And I'm going to start doing a script so I'm not rambling, but I feel like y'all get to hear my thoughts. I feel like that's, more genuine. But yeah, that's this video between athleticism. And I don't think one's better than the other. I do think both. I feel like if you're an athletic player, you need to work on your skill. And I think if you're a skillful player, athleticism is still required. But that's the end of this video. Let me know what y'all think I could do better, what points you liked about this, and just let me know.